Ladies and gentlemen, mission success, 1,000 downloads before Remembrance Day has been achieved. Thanks goes to every one of you who has liked and subscribed and downloaded the episodes and has shared a favorite with one of your friends. Please keep on doing it. Guys, the way this podcast grows and gets to as many warfighters and sheepdogs is by you sharing with your friends your favorite episodes. So please keep on doing so. Please keep on sending me the awesome comments. And you know what? I'm going to keep on producing really good content for you guys. Really good episodes on the way. So guys, please stay tuned. And thanks again for all the help and support. I think most of you guys know by now that I've written a book called The Nimble Warrior. Want to get this book into as many veterans and warfighters' hands as possible. I want to get guys and gals moving better, reducing pain, and increasing performance. It's as simple as that. If I can change just a few people's lives with a few of the basic exercises that I learned after I got injured, man, I'm finally serving my country again. So guys, please pass it on. thenimble-warrior-book.com/free. Get your hands on a copy, and I'll personally sign it for you and donate $1 to the Wounded Warriors Canada Foundation. We've got Greg Potapenko on the episode today talking about all things marketing, triathlon, and is a fellow 3V member. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome him to the show.
Welcome to the Hard to Kill podcast, the go-to podcast for military, LEO, and EMS professionals, sharing ideas and experiences from around the world to make you hard to kill. Here's your host, Dave Morrow.
All right, we're live. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Hard to Kill podcast. I've got Greg Potapenko here today, and he was somebody that I met through Facebook through just a post on the Triple Victor group, which is just a Army networking group or a Forces networking group. And Greg was happy to hop on and do his first podcast. Is that right? Is that what, Greg? Your first podcast interview ever?
Yes, glad to be here, Dave. I've listened to a lot of podcasts before, but I've never been on one, so it's going to be an interesting ride today.
Well, Greg, you know, with the massive following that I have now, I'm sure it's going to blow up when when this actually gets published. So the millions of followers out there, I think, are going to have a good listen. So, Greg, tell me a little bit about yourself, man. You got an interesting story. I think the listeners will really benefit from your diverse background. So, why don't you get started, man? Let's know a little bit about yourself.
All right. So, yeah, my name is Greg, and I was born in Russia, and I spent my early years growing up first basically in the USSR, actually, the Soviet Union, and then around 91 when it collapsed, I kind of had to live through the worst depression years, like shortages of food and basic life necessities like toilet paper and soap, and there was a system in place where each family would get one loaf of bread per day and then 6 rolls of toilet paper per month, and you had to stand in line for hours to get that. Everybody was growing their own food, and I guess that goes back to the Instagram post I made the other week. You probably seen that. About being a farmer, quote unquote, but in reality, as a kid, I didn't think twice about it. It was just a fun experience, helping out my family and just being outside, working with basic tools, and seeing the results of your work. You plant something and you cultivate it, and then a couple of months later, you run by and you grab that apple or grab that piece of green onion and eat it raw, and it's the best thing in the world. So I think back to those years is only remembering the positive, although it was tough. And then in '97 we actually went through a process to immigrate to Canada, and ended up in Toronto. So I went to high school for a couple of years, and then joined the reserves. It was almost by accident, actually. There used to be a co-op program in high school where you get high school credits for spending the summer doing your basic.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, it was like a pilot program in Ontario. I don't know if you guys had it, but
No, no, definitely not in Quebec. No.
yeah. So basically, me and my buddy, we dropped off our names at the school counselor and never heard back. And then a year later, like some mass corporal calls me, like, "Hey, are you still interested?" And I thought that was basically the follow up from that submission to the co program, but it wasn't actually. The buddy of mine who we put our names together with, he was at some fair or trade show or whatever, and saw a booth, and that was basically my future unit recruiting booth. And he didn't drop off his name, but he dropped off mine. And then these guys called me and basically recruited me into the reserves. I didn't even know this was the reserves. I thought there was only one kind of army, and
Yeah.
I'm joining the army, right? So
Yeah.
and then I realized, oh no, this is actually more of a part-time career. And I also got into university, so went to Ryerson University in Toronto for business. And in parallel, I was, immersed into the military. So every weekend and every summer and every bit of spare time, I was like all in, and became a mass corporal really quickly. Started teaching on courses. I did my para course, and shortly after graduating, I started working in finance, and then through actually an officer at my unit got a position in the biggest gold mining company in the world, and spent 6 years there.
Which company is that?
It's Barrick Gold. I think
Okay.
they briefly lost the number one position, and I think this year they bought Newmont, so now they're biggest again. I think they are. So I spent 6 years there. Traveled quite a bit. It was 3-4 months out of each year on the road, and spent a few years down in South America. Picked up Spanish, and well, here's the transition of the pivot story of how I ended up where I am now. So right now I'm in digital marketing. So it was quite a change from doing finance and then project management in mining. And it actually, I have to go back all the way to '97, because when I came to this to this country and I was lonely, I didn't have any friends. So guess what? My dad bought me a computer. And
Nice.
I just started messing around and learned HTML and built my first website on the Angel Fire, and joined a bunch of chat rooms and forums, and just kind of figured a lot of things out. And I actually made a little bit of money back then, like in '98, '99, doing some basic banner marketing and building some websites. But then I kind of didn't make anything out of it, and went down the normal quote-unquote route of education, work, joining the workforce, of course, the military. And then in around 2007, so almost a decade later, I just kind of ran into some friends who mentioned that they were doing marketing online, and they dropped some numbers that were really impressive. And I thought, well, I have some skills, like I know how to build a web page, I can figure this out, and started just trying stuff with Google AdWords back then. And this was my first daughter was about to arrive, so I was kind of like this young father to be.
So that was in 2007.
Yeah, so
Okay.
just bought a new bought a condo, expected a child, so there's a lot of expenses, and I wasn't really satisfied with the career progression in the corporate world. It wasn't fast enough for me. Like, they talk about millennials being entitled and stuff, and expecting a promotion every 6 months.
We just expect things to move well for us. That's all.
Yeah, so I guess I had a bit of that, and except I took action. Instead of just waiting for something to be given to me, like I still worked hard in my job, but then at night I would moonlight and work on my marketing business. And first year I actually lost some money, and basically, I spent like my Christmas bonus
on your side hustle.
On my side hustle, yes. So that was a loss, but it was a learning experience. And first year, I think I made like $17,000, which was like, that's not bad.
For a side hustle, it's very good.
Yeah, and then next year I did like 50,000, and then I started thinking, well, that's like almost like a good full-time salary, and then started doing more and more, and then eventually I was at a point where I thought, no, I got to start doing this full time, and it took me a long time actually. Like a lot of people make this jump, like as soon as they make that first, 4 or 5 figures, a lot of people just, okay, I'm all in, and no, it took me like several years. So I actually went full time in 2011. And then I've been full time marketing ever since, and there's been a lot of ups and downs, but it's been a pretty interesting journey.
Yeah, no kidding. So like the whole online marketing thing, like you're one of like the OGs, man. You're one of the original gangsters. Like you're doing banner ads, man. Like if you're, I guess, younger than like 30, you wouldn't really know what a banner ad is. Like when we used to go on like AOL, and like it was just like flashing banners all the time, and it's crazy how much things have changed, right? I haven't seen a banner ad on a site in years.
You probably
now,
have an ad blocker.
yeah,
That's why.
yeah, exactly, because they got so prolific. It's just like, okay, this is ridiculous. Like, so I don't want to see this. But so you were making those, but now you've obviously progressed, and so tell us a little bit more. Like, how does your marketing plan, and how do you go about setting up like online marketing now? Like, what do you mostly use in order to get the message across? Because that's essentially what you're doing, right? You're conveying a message so that people will actually interact.
Well, I guess in a nutshell, yes, you gotta get people to take action, because that's what marketing, especially direct response marketing, the kind that I'm most proficient with, is. But actually, going back on the topic of banners, I actually am running a lot of banner ads still.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, like Google still has their banners on something crazy. Something like 80 or 90% of websites in the world, they have Google AdSense, which is their banner ad platform. So they still have those, those little horizontal and skyscraper and little square banners. A lot of people have ad blockers. That's why maybe you don't see them, but
That's
there's
right.
still a lot of people who don't. And it's still quite a sizable chunk of traffic. I mean, I used to buy ads in-app placements, so that used to be banners as well. Like if you're, for example, if you have like a train schedule app where you want to look up or weather app, like you open up the weather network, and there's going to be some banner ads on the bottom. So things like that. But what I do is essentially I am a direct response marketer, which means my marketing is designed to get people to take action. It's not so much branding or eyeballs or just like getting the word out there. It's more like click here, buy now, download the app, fill out that form. And in order to do that, I use paid traffic. So like I'm not really strong in organic traffic or free traffic, such as SEO, search engine optimization, or organic social media, or like organic influencer marketing. I'm more like, I'm going to pay $1 to Google and try to get 2 back.
Mm-hmm.
So since I started with Google in 2007, that's probably like my go-to platform, which I'm most familiar with. Also Facebook, since it's also one of the largest ad platforms in the world. I had to learn it, but I only got about maybe 3 years of experience with it.
Okay.
And then in between, like I've experienced mobile advertising, banner advertising, even stuff like pop-ups and interstitials, like a little bit more, I guess they call it tier 2 type advertising.
Okay.
And I've been in many different industries, so I delivered leads for clients in insurance businesses, financial businesses, home services, solar roofs, as well as software and apps. And a couple of years ago, I also launched my own e-commerce brands. When Shopify became big, I kind of jumped on that bandwagon. So I was able to scale a 7-figure brand in the tactical space from practically nothing, and that's where the 2CC award from ClickFunnels comes into play.
Yeah. Oh, dude, we gotta talk about that. I'm glad you brought it up. So like I would say almost 50% of my time, because I jumped into the online training space, I don't have a physical location. Like I don't have my own gym. So therefore my storefront is online. And it's been the biggest learning curve for me is all the online marketing stuff. And ClickFunnels is one of the tools that I've been working with for the distribution of my book, The Nimble Warrior. And just learning that alone was like, because if when you learn something, right, you're obviously the progression is super slow. Could you just let the guys know like what exactly is that? Because most of us have probably experienced or clicked on something that is built through ClickFunnels, but for those that are thinking about starting a side hustle, that you mentioned, filling out a form and stuff like that. I think that kind of that's what you're talking about, right? That's more of a ClickFunnel like marketing style campaign. If we could just explain what that actually is and what that ClickFunnel is actually for.
Okay, so that's a good question, and I'm glad you asked. It's been interesting observing ClickFunnels from outside for the last 5 years, where they just came out of nowhere, and now they're becoming almost a household name like Kleenex, because like sales funnels were not invented by ClickFunnels.
No.
They were there before, and in essence, some of the stuff I was doing manually, writing that HTML code and building those web pages, that was essentially building some sort of a experience for the customer, the prospect, to kind of guide them down the steps you want them to take, fill out that form. ClickFunnels just made it easier and more accessible to an average non-technical person. And the best thing they've done is build a community around this. The community that will actually not just give you the tool, which is ClickFunnels is just a tool, but the community, the 200,000 people in it, and then the core community that's like a few thousand of really active users, and all the training that Russell and his team puts out there, all the information. That's what makes it so valuable. It's that cult-like following that they've developed with people helping each other out. So it's not like you can probably do a quick search and find like 50 competitive products, but most of them are just like you sign up and then you're on your own figuring out. And that's where a lot of people stop. Whereas here they have a community that like cheers you on and helps you out, and you can read case studies and look through the training and be inspired by examples of other people. Like that's why they implemented the award system, where they showcase some of the top people in their community. So they're doing a lot of right things. But at the same time, like I use Shopify for some of my e-commerce business, and Shopify did the same thing in the e-commerce world, because before, in order to sell something online, you needed to build a website, find a credit card processor, buy a shopping cart plugin, and install it all together and make sure it works. And that's what Shopify did. Now you pay $29 and you got a ready store.
Yeah.
And so like click. So Shopify is more for e-commerce, although I've seen people do other things with it. And then ClickFunnels is kind of the same thing, except for like a broader application. You can use it for generating leads or selling stuff online, or selling informational products, or all kinds of stuff. So does that answer your question?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, like you mentioned building a website and having to kind of put on the plugins. And so when I was first starting out, like I've been training for a good 6 years, and I did a lot of face-to-face stuff. And I was like, you know what, to be legit, I need to have a website. So I've been paying to have a website for years, but the website generates zero income for me. It's zero. Like I paid for ad space. I tried my best to figure out SEO, Google SEO. And like, I was just having the hardest time. And then I realized, wait, like why would I keep on putting effort into this website that generates $0 when I can find something like ClickFunnels? And I'm not sponsored by ClickFunnels, but it's been such a big game changer, because like Shopify, like even like, some guys just have an Etsy shop, and they have a really big thriving business because you can pay somebody else to do all that groundwork. They know, it works, and it's just filling in the forms. You can put your videos up, It's already templated. It's just awesome. So like any guys out there that are like thinking about starting a business that are like putting all their effort into a website that may or may not provide any sales, think about things like ClickFunnels and, you know, Shopify and Etsy shops, because it's done for you. It makes it so much easier if you're getting into the entrepreneurial game. So you're a 2CC member, which is pretty cool. I don't know if you want to brag about that, but I think that's pretty impressive. So like for ClickFunnel, like that, you're talking about the community. That's really cool what they have set up, and I see it in the background there. You have your little award. They have two tiers, right? They have the 1 comma club and the 2 comma club. But you're in the 2 comma club, man. That's like mad respect, man. Well done. Well done.
No, thank you. Actually, they do have 2 tiers, but the 2 comma is the first tier, and the second tier is the 2 comma X, which is basically 10 million and above.
Wow. From one funnel, or all your funnels put together?
I think they've changed the rules, and I heard that before you used to be able to stack all of your funnels. So let's say if you cumulatively accumulate, a certain amount of money through your funnels, and that's revenue, right? It's not profit. So there were some stories floating around about like how a realtor sold a house through ClickFunnels somehow for $1 million, and got a 2 comma club award. So I think they tightened up the rules after hearing stories like that. Maybe it's even made up, but like they don't want that, right? Because it kind of tarnishes the value. So
yep.
So yeah. As far as my award, it felt nice because Russell talked about it this February at their conference. He said like, when you go to a marathon or a triathlon, or you go into a ring with somebody and you win, you get a medal. You get somebody to like raise your hand, because Russell used to be a wrestler. Whereas like when you're like an entrepreneur and you reach a certain milestone, there's really no one there to like raise your hand or give you a medal. So he thought, well, let me be that referee that gives someone a recognition for achieving a big milestone. For a lot of people, it is a big milestone, and I mean, in itself, it was a big milestone for me, because this was my first e-commerce funnel where it actually had people give money to me for something I sell to them, which is a little bit different than saying, hey, fill out this form for free and a life insurance agent will call you.
Mm-hmm.
So I have been running a 7-figure company for several years before receiving this award. But this was just something new, something different, and it's still provided that recognition. Being out on the stage in Nashville with a couple of hundred other winners. So you get your 30 seconds of fame on stage with the ClickFunnels co-founders. They take a picture, and then on comes the next person.
Yeah, no kidding. I just, obviously my Facebook feed is full of coaches and people in the fitness industry and stuff like that. So I get to see like the guys that are in that 2 comma club. That's their marketing campaign now, and they're they show off their awards, and you know what, it's infectious, man. Like you said, like giving somebody an award for doing something, it doesn't matter what the award is. It's just the recognition, something that we understand in the military, right? Because like, although we don't get medals for a lot of shit, there is a reward system that if you're missing it, and I noticed it now too, like I don't have that reward system anymore, and I know I'm seeking it out. Like I'm a solo entrepreneur right now, and yeah, the days can be pretty lonely, man. Like when things are going okay, they're going okay, but like I don't get like a big fancy plaque. But yeah, I like what they've done there. That's definitely generating the community, and yeah, good on them for doing that. So you mentioned triathlon, man. I want to segue into your triathlon experience, because that's kind of what I noticed first about you when we're contacting each other through Facebook, that you're a triathlete. And I've done 3 triathlons. So I've done a sprint, an Olympic, and then I've done a relay 2 years ago. And it's been my goal since 2012, around that. I said I was going to do the Iron before I was 40. So I've got 2 more years to go. But you've done the Iron. Am I correct on that?
No, I've worked up to, I've done a couple of Olympics.
Okay.
And I feel like an Ironman 70.3, which is a half Ironman, is right there within reach.
It's in your wheelhouse.
Well, I mean, I've only started doing this a year ago, to be honest. Before that, I was mostly a runner. Like I actually ran ever since joining the military. I just kind of, when I joined the army, I was actually smoking a pack a day, and my fitness level wasn't really great. But then I quickly figured out that I need to tighten up my my fitness levels and my endurance in order to stay. I was still doing okay, even as a smoker. But I saw some of the top dudes in my class, and some of those hardcore warrant officers. I wanted to be like them, so I started cutting back on smoking and looking into different training. And when I got nominated for the para course, I thought, well, I better get serious. So I really started training hard.
Yeah.
And then next year I got sent to PLQ, which is like the primary leadership qualification in order to become that junior leader master corporal. And that's sort of intense as well. So I was training some more and actually quit smoking completely before going on that course. And then for a year I was coughing up like black crap out of my lungs.
Your body was finally able to
yeah,
all that bullshit that you've been putting in its lungs.
Exactly. Yeah. But eventually kind of running was my go-to thing. I did a few marathons and half marathons. I think in between 2012 and 2018, 2017. Okay. And then I got several of my friends into running. And then one of them also was a cyclist. So he said, why don't we do a triathlon? And we all kind of signed up for a first sprint last summer in 2018. And the Niagara Falls Subaru triathlon. And I couldn't swim to I could swim to save my life, but doing anything more than 100 meters, I would be so out of breath and just thinking I'm going to die. And that was kind of embarrassing considering I could run a marathon, but I couldn't swim 100 meters. So I went all in on swimming, and I took some classes. I think the thing that really helped me was the total immersion method that Tim Ferriss kind of touched on in his 4-Hour Body book.
Okay, I haven't read it. 4-Hour Work Week I've tackled a few times, but 4-Hour Body I haven't. So that's something that's a concept that he goes over in the book.
He touches on many different concepts in that book, and swimming is one of them. Basically, it changed his life as well because he was in the same boat, and he, thanks to the founder of Total Immersion Method, he basically in his 30s learned how to swim, and it was so liberating. He became almost like a brand ambassador for this method, and that's how I found out about it. And I saw some videos on YouTube, and basically the big breakthrough came when I went to Mexico, just to an all-inclusive resort, and they had this gorgeous 65-meter pool that no one was really in. Everybody was either in those drinking pools or whatever, and I just spent hours there every day, 3 to 4 hours every day, just doing the drills I saw on YouTube. They had Wi-Fi all over the property, so I put my phone on the side of the pool and just practice. And that was a big breakthrough. And then all of a sudden I was confident to start doing longer distances and just tried open water. And yeah, when the time came, I did well for the first timer, and then I decided I wanted to do a few more. So this summer I did 3. I did a sprint and 2 Olympics.
Whoa, wow. That's a lot of volume.
And I was actually gunning to do 70.3 sometime this fall. But schedule permitting, I may still find a race later on, or I just have to wait until next year.
For up here anyways, yeah. Yeah, the 70.3 is the one that definitely is attractive to me. Now, it's funny you mentioned the swimming because I grew up swimming. So I swam competitively in high school, and I used to be a swim coach, lifeguard, you name it. And now I realize a lot of guys that end up being my clients, they don't know how to swim. And I'm just and it didn't even cross my mind, because some of the guys need to learn how to swim if they want to try out for, selection and stuff like that. And it was just a question kind of just through a random conversation that, oh, Dave, do you know how to swim? I was like, yeah. It's like, oh, well, and do you mind like showing me kind of the basics? Like, yeah, sure. Like, and now it's like, it's more and more a thing where guys really, you throw them in the pool and it's the fear, right? Because they never learned how. And if you don't know how, man, like you said, 100 meters, you're finished. You're just fighting to stay alive. It's like you're using every bit of energy not to drown. So I totally get now why that swimming component is so important, especially early on. So like my son is 3 years old, and I've got a newborn daughter as well. He's already in the pool, and he's got his floaty wings and stuff on, but I'm definitely going to make sure that he knows how to swim well. So do you have any pointers like for your build up training for the triathlons, like volume wise, and just what your tips of the or tricks are for getting ready for those things?
It's funny that you ask, because like I'm not really sticking to any like strict protocol or anything, and you know, my wife makes fun of me. It's like, well, you can just get off the couch and run the marathon. And well, I guess I'm gonna fall back on a story I heard about Floyd Mayweather, where like somebody went into his I guess waiting room before like some huge fight. I think he was fighting Connor or somebody else, and Floyd is just sitting there watching basketball. And they asked him, well, we don't want to disturb you, like, we want to make sure you're ready. And he's like, no, don't worry, like I've been training for this all my life, I'm ready. I'm either ready or I'm not. Like this last 5 minutes is not going to do anything. So just because like I think I did a lot of training for the last 18, 19 years, a lot of running, a lot of CrossFit style training, gym. I think that foundation is what allows me to kind of cheat and not stick to like any particular protocol. And perhaps this will punish me later when I go to like some serious race where you do need to prepare. But for now, I've been able to just get away with just like, I've signed up to 2 Toronto marathons, literally just like the day before. One time we had a 13K ruck march with the unit on the Friday, and my thing was like, if my feet don't get blisters on Friday, I'm gonna find a bib on Kijiji and on Saturday and run it on Sunday, and that's what I did.
Dude, that's wild.
It is, but again, basically I worked for it all my life, so that's why I think I'm able to do that. But in essence, it's just time doing the skill. Like with swimming, it was just time in the water, and working it into my normal training routine. So, for example, I would take a boxing class, and then I would jog to the pool, which was like 10 minutes away, and jump in for a cool down swim. Stuff like that, little things, and just accumulating more time and compounding the effect of that training. I think that helps. I'm still slow. I'm probably one of the last guys out of the water on the swim, and then I do okay on the bike, and then I like smoke everybody. Not smoke everybody, but like I basically catch up a lot on the run.
On the run, yeah. For me, like the water is that's like getting off the couch and going for a run kind of thing. Like the water's that's not the issue for me. And I know that's usually the biggest issue for a lot of triathletes, right? Like you said, like most didn't learn how to swim, especially efficiently when they're younger. So that's usually not the issue. The thing for me is the bike. I fucking hate the bike, man, because I never biked. Running is fine. Like I like to run. I'm doing the army run on the weekend. But yeah, the bike, being in the saddle for any amount of time, I don't like it. My legs burn in a weird way that I'm not used to. And yeah, I haven't got used to it. So that's why I'm looking at, have you seen those Peloton bikes?
Yeah, I've seen them. I've heard about them. Tim Ferriss is a big fan. He, I think they sponsor his podcast or something. And they're also a remarkable business case, how they put, 2 boring items together, like a stationary bike that most people throw out. And
yeah.
Some gym classes that most people sign up for a gym membership, and they put the 2 together, and boom, they're a unicorn, like multi-billion-dollar valuation.
It's crazy. I think they have an IPO coming out next week or the week after, and they've got something like 500,000 members already signed up at like I think it was $200 a month or $40. I think the bikes are a few grand, but then I think it's like a $30 or $40 membership.
The subscription portion that actually drives up that valuation. So, going back to ClickFunnels, that's one of the strong points of ClickFunnels that allows you to have that recurring membership subscription type charge, which really, really, increases your average lifetime value of your customers. So that's another powerful thing. So, see how you can draw parallels from like big businesses to, something you're doing. And But about the bike stuff, let me ask you, have you invested into doing a proper fitting?
That's, it's funny you mentioned that. No, I actually had a buddy of mine.
He
said the exact same thing. He's like, "Did you get your bike fitted?" I'm like, "Nah, I just raise the seat, I put my feet in the pedals and I go." And he's like, "Yeah, it's probably why you don't like being in the saddle."
Yes, I agree, because that's exactly what I did. Like first year, I wasn't cycling either since pretty much, back in Russia when I was a kid. And last year I bought a bike in May. It was May 24 long weekend. And, for short distances, I was just able to muscle through it. And, when I first went for my first 70K ride, like I was hurting. I was still muscle through, airborne, and, but then I just went and paid some $150 for a fitting, and they did a few things, and I ended up paying more. I actually got some aero bars and a better seat, and oh my God, what a difference! It's just crazy, like.
Yeah.
So it's definitely worth to at least get it fitted properly, and then for triathlons, especially the aero bar setup is probably the best mod you can do.
Yeah, that I've been meaning to do that, and it's just one of those things where I'm just like, I'll get to it, and I know it'll definitely help out substantially, but I've been lazy on that for sure, because I haven't registered for one since 2 years ago. I did a relay, so I just did the swim for the Montreal Tri. It was a swim in the old port. So that was cool, but I didn't have to do the bike or the run. So I was like, I just neglected my bike. My bike I just used just for getting around at that point. So next year I definitely plan on getting back into the tri season, and I definitely have to get that bike fitted for sure. Or even better, maybe just get a new bike, and then I can get it all done at the same time. Who knows? My wife's listening. Sorry, honey, I'm going to be buying a bike for a few grand. But I'll be saving. I'll save up.
Yeah. I still did it on a fairly tight budget. Like I got the cheapest carbon bike I can get out of an outlet, and just got the basics and then necessities on, and I didn't put on any bells or whistles, so it's still a fairly inexpensive solution. But what a difference between just like going at stock and then doing a proper adjustment. Definitely your quads and your legs and your butt will thank you.
Yeah, I can imagine. Actually, the worst bike experience I ever had was I did the ride to conquer cancer from Montreal to Quebec City, and I figured, like I'm fit. I did a bit of workout for it, but it's about 100 and something clicks a day, and I figured, man, I'll be fine. And after day one, man, it was like I was on a leadership course, like I was paying, like it was raining, and the wind was blowing in the wrong direction. I wasn't prepared whatsoever. My back was the thing. That's where I injured my back, and I knew right away. I was like, obviously I'm in the wrong position here. My back shouldn't hurt this much. Like, and my neck was killing me. Like everything that shouldn't be hurting was hurting. And so, by the end of it, I was like, wow, I'm never doing this again until I get my bike fixed up and actually get in the right position. Because even the guys, like I was bringing it to the mechanics, and they're saying like, man, they're like, have you got your bike fitted? I'm like, man, you're like the fourth guy to ask me if I got my bike fitted. I'm like, no. They're like, yeah, it's probably why you're hurting pretty bad. But I got through it. But it was definitely a big learning experience for me to ensure that proper fit. It makes a huge difference. So look, I want to ask you just at the end of kind of every interview, I kind of go over just a few key questions for our listeners, especially what you're reading and what you're listening to is something that I think helps out a lot. You mentioned some of the guys that you were paying attention to before the interview that sounded pretty interesting too. Some books and stuff like that. So, is there anything that's got your ear or that you're reading right now that would be beneficial to the listeners out there?
the last book I read was Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's actually a pretty interesting book about how to change your patterns and drop the habits you don't want and adopt the habits that you do want. That's quite an interesting read. And shortly before that, I've read Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins.
Oh, of course, man.
So I think that in particular will jive well with the Hard to Kill movement and overall fitness and endurance theme that you got going on. So yeah, definitely that's an interesting book to go through.
Yeah,
that's podcast like
reading.
Podcast. Pretty much listen to them every day, especially in the car or on a long run or in the gym. So Tim Ferriss has been a huge influence. Mark Devine from SEAL Feed and Unbeatable Mind, and Andy Frisella, MFCEO, and a few other business and marketing podcasts, like the one from ClickFunnels. They have several going, like one by Russell Brunson, and then they have Dave Woodward, who's like right-hand man, who's got a podcast. Grant Cardone's got a bunch of content about like real estate and just business in general, and the 10X rule. Jay Abraham and a bunch of others in the marketing space.
Yeah, it's funny, right? Like, even though I'm not in the quote unquote marketing domain, I do follow about half of these guys that you mentioned, because the reality of being in the entrepreneur space is that you have to know your marketing stuff. And Grant Cardone and Tim Ferriss, especially Tim Ferriss, like he was instrumental in me kind of going out and starting an entrepreneurial venture, because I read 4-Hour Workweek, and it was really eye-opening. I was like, holy shit. I'm like, yeah, this makes a lot of sense. And I don't know, it put me down a path. It still took me about 1.5 years from the time I kind of read it and absorbed it. And I've gone over it a few times now. Like I pick out little bits, because I have it on audiobooks now. So I go to a certain chapter, I listen, and then go back, and his podcast is freaking awesome. And he's like one of the original gangsters too, in like the podcast world, and blogging and all that stuff. Like he was figuring it out way before a lot of people got on board. So definitely, guys, it should be checked out, and they'll be in the show notes for those of you that are interested in finding the links for them and checking out the books and the podcast. Cool. So I also have a question that I ask everybody on the show too, and it's, what makes you hard to kill? It's a tough one.
I can run really fast and outrun the killers. No, I'm joking. No, really. I guess life has punched me in the face so many times, and we haven't had a chance to talk about a lot of my failures. It seems like everything was smooth sailing, and that wasn't the case at all. So the compounding effect of just constantly being taught lessons and literally and figuratively punched in the face by life, and that is giving you the ability for that, getting back into the fight, for that resiliency and pushing through. And I think that's what makes us all, in the veteran community, hard to kill.
Absolutely, man. And again, if I'm to do a scientific analysis of the answers to what makes you hard to kill, inevitably, I think it's been 100% now. Everybody's like, yeah, it's my resilience. It's my ability to get back up, keep on going. And yeah, it's not surprising, especially, those of us that are veterans as well. That's something that's kind of ingrained in us too. So it definitely transfers well to the entrepreneur world and life in general. So not surprising, man. Thanks for sharing that. Dude, it's been awesome. We're going to have to touch base a little more on the marketing stuff offline, because I got a few questions for you. But thanks for doing the episode, man. I really appreciate it. And yeah, let's stay in contact, man.
Absolutely. Thank you. It was a lot easier than I thought it would be.
Yeah, first experience done, man. Now I popped your podcast cherry, man. There's a whole bunch of different ones, dude. I can put you in touch with a few guys that have got podcasts too that are veterans as well, and I'm sure they'd love to have you on as well.
Absolutely. Why not?
All right, man. Have a good rest of the day. To all you guys listening out there, peace.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. You can find out more about training, nutrition, and mindset at davemorrow.net. Be sure to like us on Facebook and Instagram at Dave Morrow PT. And don't forget, strong people are hard to kill.